All right, and we are live for another edition of the Crimewatch Rewatch. So we will be going back to December 1984 to look at some of the crimes that had happened at that period, and then I will tell you whether I've been able to find out whether they've been solved, unsolved, or just generally any information I could find about them at all. Here is your trigger warning. Uh, so these are real cases involving real people, though there might be some smart ass comments. You know, we do always need to bear that in mind. Okay, so without further ado, let's play the Crimewatch theme. Go, big blast of the 80s.
Hello and welcome to the programme where you can help solve crimes. Everything you see tonight will be for real. Real crimes reenacted as and where they happened with the help of actual witnesses.
Remember,
the detectives
real crimes,
behind me
real
are
people.
hoping that you might recognise something. If so, you can call us and speak in confidence, either to a detective or to a BBC researcher.
In case you do see something you recognise, you may need pen and paper. This is the number here, but police throughout the country are waiting for your call.
Pen and paper at the
we're
ready,
about
people.
to show you are often those where the police have almost exhausted ordinary methods of inquiry. In other words, they're the crimes that are the most difficult ones to solve. But with your help, last month's Crimewatch once again achieved results.
We showed how last June in Bristol, a young mother, an American artist called Shelley Morgan, left her 2 children to go painting and simply disappeared. Her body was found 4 months later at Watercatch Farm near Backwell. The police had very little to go on, but after the programme, 120 people came forward with information. Until then, her movements could only be traced.
Unfortunately, it didn't help much. This crime's still unsolved.
Now, with your help, we now know what happened after that. At a little before 11 o'clock on Monday, the 11th of June, a viewer saw Shelley Morgan board the 354 bus at Bristol bus station. The 354 travels towards Backwell, where the body was found. At 11:15, she was seen to get off that bus at Long Ashton, and as she did so, a van pulled up. It's thought to have been a royal blue Ford Transit, and the driver, unlike the one shown here, was wearing a white T-shirt. He waved Shelley to the window, and she seemed to be giving him directions. In fact, apparently they were heading the same way, and the driver may have offered her a lift. Detectives now
that makes him a likely suspect.
if only to eliminate him from their inquiries. If you can help, here's the number, 01811 8055. Or you can call the incident room at Nailsea. That's Bristol 854 011 0272 854 011.
Then there was the armed robbery in Shropshire. After seeing our reconstruction, more than 250 viewers called in to offer help. We showed how a security van was ambushed in a country lane and £500,000 was stolen.
One of the guys involved in this did get arrested and in prison for
One of the raiders'
15
vehicles,
years,
a
if
yellow
I recall
lorry,
correctly.
had driven 200 miles from Chelmsford in Essex to the ambush spot at Wem. It had been bought the day before at auction, and 2 men who were at that auction rang to tell us that they saw the lorry leave, accompanied by a blue Ford Escort car. A blue car, but with a green passenger door, very distinctive. The police are following that up, and if you know such a car, please do let us know.
There have been strong new leads on several of the other cases we've dealt with on Crimewatch, but in particular there's been a development in the past few hours on one of our major appeals last month. The man in charge of the Brighton bomb inquiry asked for your help. If you recall, he especially wanted to hear from a Roy Walsh, who stayed at the Grand Hotel on the 15th, 16th
Roy
and
Walsh
17th of
was
September.
the fake name used by IRA
Detective
terrorist Patrick
Jack
McGee,
Rees is back in the studio
who had
to
stayed
explain why he's now
at
stepping
the
up the hunt for
Grand
Roy
Hotel
Walsh.
in
And it's looking
Brighton
increasingly like this is your man, is it?
3 weeks
the more
prior
time that
to
elapses, the more
the bombing.
interesting and significant Mr. Walsh becomes.
Now, what you're releasing tonight is a fragment of his hotel registration, and there is something distinctive in the handwriting.
Yes, if your viewers look at the E in Braxfield and the E in SE4, you'll notice that there is a peculiarity, and we would like any of your viewers who know people with handwriting like that to tell us.
It's almost as though he's drawn a downward, either an L or a downward stroke, and then a Z backwards, as it were.
Interestingly, Patrick McGee, he claims this was
well, we've got an awful lot of enquiries
this evidence that was used against him was false, because they said it had his fingerprints on it.
People who stayed at the Grand Hotel in false names.
But he said he was fitted up by the police on that.
Eliminate them from our inquiry.
Despite the seriousness, some people still have not come forward voluntarily.
Right, yes.
You've had to discover them?
Yes.
OK. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Easton-Do.
Thank you.
Well, this month, we start with the murder of a policeman. You'll almost certainly have read about the case, and it appeared in the press on the same day as Mrs. Gandhi's death was reported. It was 7 weeks ago.
They mentioned that to
31st
help
of
people
October. Police Sergeant John
remember
Speed,
about the
a
time this
married
would have
man with two
happened.
children, was buried at Leeds Parish Church, ironically just 50 feet from where he'd been gunned down. He was shot as he went to help a colleague who was gravely wounded. Sergeant Speed and his colleague were both unarmed, and on the face of it, there appeared to be precious little motive for such violence. But West Yorkshire Police believe the shooting
Don't
may
worry,
be linked to two previous
I will
robberies
tell
in
you
the
about it
area.
all.
We start our reconstruction with a look back to 1981.
What's going on? Is this Fred's? Are we watching Fred's now? Crimewatch reconstructions don't usually get this artsy. Especially not for the robbery of an Asda store. I feel like the director was thinking he was gonna get an Oscar for the best short film on this. They don't look that disturbed by it all. They look like this is just a common thing for them. This is yeah, that opening sequence, it's just weird. It's just strange.
Police, please. Hello? Could you send somebody round now to outside Leeds Parish Church? There's two guys that look like they're going to pinch a car. It's a yellow Mark III Ford Cortina. It's right outside the door, right opposite the front door.
Who'd want to pinch a Ford Cortina?
Near to the parish church. A report of two men acting suspiciously near to a yellow Ford Cortina saloon.
Just a minute. Where are you going?
I'm not going anywhere. Why? What's wrong?
We've had a report that two men have been acting suspiciously around this car park. Is it you?
I've done now.
You've been messing about with this Cortina?
No.
Have you been on this car?
I've checked around the car park, and all is in order.
2977. Couldn't you get Sergeant Speed to come to the front of the parish church curtain?
Hi Rob, good to see you. Yes, that sequence, it was definitely
10:13.
weird.
10:13. I've been shot. Get an ambulance. 2977 to control.
But now we're
Description of gunman.
but now
He's a
we're
white
back
male,
back to
about 40
something
years of age.
resembling
Stocky
normal.
build, wearing a grey flat cap and an olive green army type jacket.
Oh. Now that was cold. Just to remind us people that British police officers usually don't carry guns. Obviously, there are some armed officers, but your typical Bobby, all he's got is his truncheon, really.
Get out of the back.
What the hell's going off, mate?
Just leave me there.
What's the guy there? Everything's family. Come on then.
It's all ramping up.
We'll have control to all units. Suspect has hijacked a Ford Transit van. The registration number, Echo Whiskey Uniform 455 Yankee. It's blue in colour and has Stanton roofing painted on the side.
Confused. You saw the blue van. Why are they chasing the red van? Oh, they stole 2 vans.
Hello, Stantons. It's the police from Gipton. Can you put the light on top of that van? It'll help us to find it. Okay, thank you very much.
The Indian Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, has been
just
shot
minding
dead
us.
by assassins in Delhi. The shooting happened just a few hours ago, and Mrs. Gandhi was rushed to hospital.
So sometimes curtain twitches can serve a purpose.
Now, quick spot of weather, please, Francis.
Yes, there's a splash reaching Scotland and Ireland now, and it's going to be a damp Halloween for Scotland and Ireland. Further south, England and Wales looks pretty good today. It's going to be warm, quite sunny. There's some morning mist to clear. There's the odd patchy black cloud.
Right, but this is going to get in a. This is getting a bit exciting, it's got a bit of tension to it.
But we will be bringing you that.
Are police going to find the guy?
There we are, thank you very much indeed.
Well, it's on Crimewatch, so I think we know the answer, but.
Yeah, it should be about 12, 13. It's probably 16, 17 this afternoon, so Indian summer.
What was that nonsense about Indian summer? Yeah, nosy neighbours are the backbone of neighbourhood watch. Absolutely. You know, any community, there's always curtain twitchers who know everything that everyone is doing. Nick Hancock's on the scene.
Will you have control to Firearm Unit 51? Will you attend St Elmo's Grove, Leeds 9 immediately? The hijacked vehicle has been recovered in that area. Will you conduct an immediate search there?
What is he carrying? That looks like he's carrying an egg tray. Is that a normal thing in Leeds? People just carry their egg trays around with them? I wouldn't hang washing out there. You'd only get dirty again.
Milgap control to all patrols. The gunman was last seen at 10:10 hours outside the Anglers Club in Nippet Lane. He's a white male, 5 feet 10 inches, well built although not fat, around 40 years of age, mousy-coloured hair but grey in collar length. He's wearing a brown and grey checked cap, olive green combat type jacket and dark trousers. Can I reiterate that this man is armed and dangerous? If seen, do not approach, but inform control.
He's a character from Last of the Summer Wine.
Detective Chief Superintendent John Con.
So that opening reconstruction, that was interesting. It started off all artsy, like the director thought he was making threads, and then you got this sort of tense police chase. Doom says I'm a racist. What is that about? The Leeds people carrying their egg trays.
Boy, firstly, why are you linking those 2 raids we saw at the beginning of that reconstruction, the 2 raids in Pudsey in 1981?
Because the gun used and the bullets used are very similar to the gun and bullets used in the shooting of the 2 police officers.
And what do we know about this gun?
It's a .38 revolver, similar to that gun there.
Right. People in the underworld might know about that gun.
It may well be that somebody has sold the gun within the last few months in Leeds, yes.
All right, now let's try and establish the geography. All of this, of course, took place within a very small area. In fact, within 1.5 miles of Kirkgate Parish Church, where the shooting happened. The gunman then ran off,
I don't know what you mean, Tim.
Raj, to this point here, where he hijacked that blue van at Rhodes Filling Station. The next sighting we have is about a mile away in St Elmo Grove, where, incredibly it seems, he stayed with the van for over 3/4 of an hour. Then, having been spotted by a patrol car, he abandoned the van, taking with him a blue helmet, and headed off this way. Here at Torrey Road, he was seen...
Well, right, you think I'm leaning heavily into the Yorkshire stereotypes.
There were 4 more sightings of the gunman before he reached Leeds Anglers Club at Nippets Lane, where he was seen for the last time, as far as we know, by that woman hanging out her washing. Now, why would he have spent 3/4 of an hour with the van?
Well, I feel he was hiding in public in that area. It's a quiet area of Leeds, off the main York-Leeds road. It may well be he's waiting for his accomplice to arrive there, or it may well be that he was going to carry out a robbery at a nearby post office or building society.
Do you know,
what had happened?
I don't believe that's his real
his
hair.
His accomplice was last seen running through the Garden of Rest and onto the railway embankment, and we don't really have any more sightings of him then.
But I gather he was seen, or at least conceivably it was him, was seen talking to a woman by some people working in old people's home.
There's a possibility he was seen on the Eber estate of Bermontofts by people in the old people's home talking to that woman there.
Now, this woman hasn't come forward yet, despite your appeals.
No, we would like her to come forward. She's about 45'4" with fair hair. I've made a number of appeals for her to come forward, and I feel she should do, because I think she gave that man directions.
And what about that man? What do we know about his appearance?
Well, he's between 30 and 40, 5'10" to 6 foot. He's got dark brown hair. He was wearing a dark donkey jacket and green overalls.
Yeah, it's stuck on with Velcro.
Any sightings that they might have had of these 2 men on that morning?
It just doesn't look right.
31st of October. All this happened between roughly 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning.
Well, it may well be that people in Leeds may have
he's
seen
trying to
before
fool you with those sideburns
and tell us if they have. Any criminal in Leeds, and we've had a great deal of help from the criminals of Leeds, may identify them. I would hope they'd come forward. And if there's anyone who may have kept them in a guest house, lodging house, or hotel the night before, I would like them to come forward.
The underworld really has helped you try and trace this man?
They have, yes.
Here is the Crimewatch video fit of him. There you see him coloured in. Maybe you could just repeat what we're looking for.
Well, he's about 40 years of age, 5'10". He's stocky build. He was wearing that check cap, olive green combat jacket, dark trousers, and as I said, he's about 40 years of age.
In the reconstruction, just let them wrap up. Gait, a strange run. Was that because he'd hurt himself, or does he normally run like that?
He may have hurt himself near the wall at the parish church. A number of witnesses have said he ran pincy-toed.
Right. John Conboy, thank you very much
Making
indeed.
fun of his run.
If there's any way in which you think that you might be able to help, please do call us.
I will.
Here's the number, 01811 8055. Remember, there's a very big reward.
Out.
You can talk to a BBC researcher if you prefer. You can call the police directly in Leeds. The number there is Leeds 454 197. That's 0532 454 197. And let me stress that you can call in the strictest confidence.
Don't call that number. You'll have to speak to someone from Leeds, and no one wants that. Anyway, let's go. All right, I'll show you what I have been able to find on this case. So let's hope this all works. Right, hopefully you should now see that that on the screen. So the gunman, he was called David Greiswith, and he was caught eventually, but it did take a few years. So he was believed to have carried out at least 21 armed robberies between 1981 and 1987. And how he got caught was there was a car chase in which he ended up stealing a police car, and the police chased him. They rammed him down, and his own shotgun went off, and he died from his wounds. So I'll move on. I mean, and yeah, there was a huge investigation into it. They found a massive collection of guns. He was linked into loads of other people involved in organized crime, and there are a number of other arrests, including a senior councilman called Peter Sanderson, his girlfriend Adrienne Robinson, who got convicted for aiding and abetting. But most relevant to the case we've just seen was his accomplice on that particular day, who was a lorry driver called Paul Guest. Now he was cleared in terms of the actual murder, but he was jailed for 7 years for conspiring to rob a post office. And there is actually a whole Crimewatch follow-up to this. It's one of their Crimewatch files, a spin-off from the main show, in which they tell the whole story of how they eventually caught the killer of PC John Speed. So yeah, so all quite exciting. All right, so just hide that. Okay, and we'll just go back to what Sue has to say.
Crimewatch Incident Desk, where we invite the police to appeal to you directly. Here are Detective Constable Helen Phelps and Chief Inspector David Hatcher.
Okay, with the little
First on Incident
mini
Desk, we're
appeals.
appealing for your help on the murder of a 76-year-old lady, Barbara Pinder, described by her friends as strong-willed and lively. She was strangled, then stabbed 35 times at her home in Battersea in London, sometime between Friday the 26th and Sunday the 28th of October.
Nasty and brutal,
that. At Prince of Wales Mansions in Prince of Wales Drive, and we need to trace anyone who was seen entering the flats during that weekend. Mrs. Pinder lived in flat 24A, and to remind you, that was the weekend that the clocks went back. Many witnesses have already come forward, and two in particular remember seeing 3 workmen enter the mansions at about 10:45 on the morning of Friday, October the 28th. Those 2 witnesses produced this photo fit of one of the men, and here at Crimewatch they were able to improve on the picture to produce this video fit. The man was about 5'9", 35 to 40 years old, and wore a red jumper. One of his two colleagues wore blue overalls and the men were carrying tools. Later that morning, 3 other men were seen in a green van outside Prince of Wales Mansions. We want to hear from anyone who saw that green van or this man and his 2 fellow workmen.
So that one, the murder of Barbara Pinder. So that one, it is still unsolved. The last thing I've been able to find it was an article from 2010. But what's interesting about it, though, is there was actually someone who confessed to her killing. A man called David Mackenzie, but his conviction was overturned when it turned out he was a serial confessor. Now, if you're not sure what a serial confessor is, I'll give you a famous example from the United States. This is Henry Lee Lucas. Now he did kill at least 3 people, but he claimed and confessed to killing 600 different people. And I have to say the police were quite complicit in this, in that they would allow him to confess to these crimes that he obviously couldn't have committed, because yeah, it makes their figures look good when they can say they've solved all these cases. But obviously this means that a lot of the time the real killers are still running free. So yeah, Barbara Pinder's still unsolved. Okay, let's move to the next one. Doom love your Weetabix. Did you have your Weetabix this morning? Arsenal had their Weetabix today, didn't they?
It's also needed in Manchester in the hunt for a man who raped an 11-year-old girl. It happened a month ago on Wednesday the 21st of November in the Moston area. We're anxious to trace a man seen outside the entrance to Moston Youth Centre in Hoffney Road shortly after 7 p.m. He's described as 28 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall, and was wearing jeans and a blue cagoule with the hood up, and these rather expensive trainers. They're the distinctive high-tech brand. After the attacks, he escaped over a fence beside the centre and ran across Moston playing fields towards Albine Street.
When I was at school, if you had high tech, that meant your parents were poor.
Seeing him. He must have been very muddy after the attack. Next to the centre is Moston College, and anyone taking evening classes there that night may have seen the man around 7 o'clock. Remember, the attack happened on Wednesday the 21st of November here at the Moston Youth Centre, and it may be linked to a similar incident 2 days earlier, about a mile away, here at the junction of Victoria Avenue East and Rochdale Road. A man dressed in similar clothes attempted to rape a 12-year-old girl.
Yeah.
This description is of a man in his late teens. If you have any information at all, you can ring us here in confidence.
No sarcastic remarks making that one. That's just horrible crime. So when you were a kid, if people went to school instead of an academy, they were poor. Okay. I'll trust you on that, Doom. So on this one, let me just get to the right slide. So I haven't been able to find if this crime was solved. The last thing I've been able to find in connection to it was that there was a local businessman who was offering a £500 reward. So, as far as I know, that offer is still open. So let's move to the next one.
Police in Thames Valley need your help to complete their inquiries into
Now,
this
this one
murder.
is
On
quite an
Thursday, the
interesting
18th
one.
of October, the burning body of a man was found here in Willets Lane, Denham. It's just off the M40 in Buckinghamshire. We still need to find the victim's car. It was a red Colt Mirage, like this one, and it's disappeared.
Another nice
There's the
80s
registration
red
number,
box car.
A268ARX. At least that's what it was. It could be anything now. Have you seen one like it in your street? We've reason to believe it's still somewhere between London and Buckinghamshire. Remember the number, A268ARX, and ring us if you've seen that car.
And just in case
Okay.
you've still got some Christmas shopping to...
So let's pause that. And let's go back. So this one looks... Let's get that off. Okay, so this one I'm a little pleased with myself about because they didn't actually give a name in that report. I believe I was able to locate this murder because it matches all the details that they've given, and it would seem this was a bit of an honor killing situation because the guy involved was a Sikh man who murdered his son-in-law, who he claimed had raped his youngest daughter. So it says that he stabbed him, drove him out to Willets Lane near Denham, dumped his body, and set it on fire. And so he was. So this is Hardev Singh Grual. I'm not good at these pronunciations. I won't lie. Yes, so he was sentenced to life for the murder, along with his oldest daughter who had helped him with the crime. So we can chalk that one up as solved. Tax expired on that car in 1994. Okay. Yeah, I'm surprised it was still on the road by 1994, to be honest. All right, let's move to the next. Yeah, so we're looking at some lovely fur coats.
Take a look at this lot. They're exclusive
Fur is
and very
murder,
valuable
by the
fur
way.
coats, and 30 of them, just like these, have been stolen and are no doubt being offered to new owners. Some of them have pelt numbers, and police in Cheshire have been trying to track them down since they were
Well, I
stolen
expect you
from
still have a
farmers
few
in
fur coats
Wilmslow
in your
late on
house and
Thursday
do.
the 27th of September.
Only real fur,
They'd
real
earlier been
mink.
displayed at a fashion show and were being kept overnight at Marshall's Furs in Water Lane. The thieves smashed their way into the shop, and from witnesses we've been able to compile these photo fits of two people who may have been involved in the raid. The pair are thought to have Liverpool accents and may use a white Mercedes car seen in the area prior to the robbery. 30 furs, valued at more than £40,000, were stolen. They're all one-offs, and these are some of the pelt numbers of the coats, which are mainly a mixture of sables and minks. They could be anywhere by now. Manchester, Liverpool, even London. You never know where they might turn up. So if you
Good
do
thing your
get
missus will
furs
never
like
see that
these, fresh from the back
comment.
of a lorry, give us a ring here, or ring your local police.
And the number to ring if you can help in any way, 01811 8055. That's 01811 8055.
Okay, so I haven't been able to find out if the fur coat thieves were caught. You know, they could be stealing to sell. They could have been animal rights activists. I did look up. The average cost of a fur coat in 1984 was £8,000, which would be £25,000 in today's money. Yeah. Yeah, just ridiculous amount of money for a coat. Though pocket change for you, Doom.
Our next case is almost certainly the most difficult we've ever asked your help with. It's 5 years old, and not only are police hunting for a murderer, they're also still trying to find out who the victim is. Forensic scientists have unraveled part of the puzzle. Detectives now want to see if there's anything that you can add. The story starts in Kent. Bedgebury Forest lies between Tunbridge Wells and Hawkshurst, just off the A21. In October 1979, the body of a young woman was found by a horsewoman riding through the forest. The victim had been battered and her face was badly mutilated. There was no handbag, no identification, and virtually nothing to go on.
Well, with us tonight is Detective Superintendent Peter Spittles, who's been in charge of the case and has brought in the main clue, the dress that she was wearing there. Superintendent Spittles, how did you try to find out who the woman was?
We did all the usual inquiries through the Missing Persons Bureau at New Scotland Yard, through the social services, through the hospitals and from doctors. We also did a large poster campaign throughout Great Britain and Europe, but we were unable to find any clues as to our identity. So we did in fact call on the services of the pathologist.
Doom, you don't know why people think I'm rich.
Here. What clues have you turned up?
I think it was the way you smoke your tobacco through a £50 note.
I have here a demonstration skull, and her teeth, in fact, were very worn down, particularly in the molar region here. She also had wisdom teeth, which actually placed her around about the age of 30 years. In addition, we noted from the examination of her teeth that, in fact, she had never visited a dentist in her life, so her teeth were in a very poor state of repair. In addition, she had no evidence of nicotine staining on her teeth, nor her fingers, which indicated
so she was probably from Yorkshire then.
Do her lungs bear that out?
Her lungs certainly do bear that out, and also they show that, in fact, that they are very clean, which is indicative of her having lived in the country rather than in the city.
The city lungs are much blacker, are they?
Yes, if we examine a microscopical slide of city lungs, we can see that, in fact, there are quite clear
these advanced forensics techniques,
blood vessels in this field that we have here.
So she was probably a country girl and a non-smoker.
Yes.
Anything else? I gather she had an ectopic pregnancy.
That's right. When we examined her abdomen, we found that she had this ectopic pregnancy, which, in my view, had been present for about 4 to 6 weeks. But, in fact, it had been bleeding for a period of 2 to 3 weeks. And here we can see quite clearly the area where there are remnants of embryonic tissue. And nearby, as we scan the slide, there is a lot of blood clot of varying ages, which indicates that it had been bleeding for that period of time.
So she must have been in a lot of pain.
Yes, she must certainly have been in a lot of pain, and anybody who was with her or knew her very well would obviously realise that she was very distressed.
This is more for
even have visited her doctor
educational purposes, I think, really.
Appendicitis, because it was on the right side.
So we're beginning to get an impression of the woman. She's probably about 30 years old.
I don't think they really expected much to come of this.
And she may well have been a mother. Is that right?
Yes, she had obvious stretch marks on her abdomen, clearly indicating that she'd had an advanced pregnancy at some time, and the appearances of the womb also indicate that.
You know,
so
there's
probably had at least one child.
Right. So
there's not many
what have your inquiries
details to go on.
The main clue we have is the dress that Josephine Hadlow has at the moment. We took it to her at the Medway College of Design, and she
Doom, just to assure you, she is wearing gloves.
Is in fact made from a furniture fabric, and it
so,
is
you know, she's
homemade.
not.
It has been made by a woman at home.
You know, she's not damaging the evidence
on
there.
At least 2 occasions, one around the hem, and the other time is with darts through the breast area on 2 separate occasions.
So it's not a bought dress, it's a homemade dress, and maybe she wasn't very well off then?
No, we think that it was possibly bought in an Oxfam shop or a second-hand shop, and she could have been living a very poor
So it's a dress made out of the material you put on your sofa.
Yes, it's most important. It's the most important clue we have, and we would like to find either the lady that made it at home or the person that altered the dress.
So we've had an account of this woman's way of life, and we know what she was wearing. Do we have any idea now of what she looked like?
Yes. Again, we asked Dr. Venices for his help in reconstructing the skull, and then an artist's impression was
See, this is a bit like what they did with
from which we
Richard
publish,
III when they
this impression,
found what was
and we
his
would ask
skeleton.
people if they recognise that impression to come forward and tell us who they think it is.
We're not expecting a great deal on this, but if conceivably you think you knew this woman, call us here on Crimewatch
Well,
UK.
they don't know what her name
unusual
was.
Dress. Do you remember making it or altering it? Whatever your information, phone us on 01811 8055, or you can call Kent Police. The number there is Tunbridge Wells 2642. That's 0892 262 42.
Okay. So just to go back. So our Jane Doe there is still a Jane Doe. So 45 years on, yet they still haven't moved any further forward in her case. I mean, you'd think someone would have noticed she had gone missing, but obviously not. So yeah, so the Bedgebury Forest woman don't know who a murderer was. Still don't know who she was. Still a Jane Doe. So we'll go. Okay, go back to Handsome Nick.
Now this month's photo calls, people you might recognise whom the police would like to interview. Chief Inspector David Hatcher and DC Helen Phelps have the pictures. See if there's anyone here you think you know.
We've 4 faces for you to look at on our photo call this month. First of all, have you seen either of these men? Terry Smith on the left and John Kendall on the right. They made a dramatic escape from a prison van on Wednesday the 21st of November. They were serving long sentences for robbery
Very
and
distinct
burglary.
faces.
These two may be dangerous and should not be approached.
The next face on our photo call is this one.
Right, before we get to Bobby Charlton there. No DNA to match. I mean, DNA didn't really come in until the 80s, and they wouldn't have anything to match it against to locate who she was, because her body was found in 1979. I mean, they could. I mean, maybe they could. They could trace her through if they could find relatives, but that's very much a long shot. I forget what they call it. Reverse genealogy, something like that. But anyway, I'll get back to our prison escapees. Right. Okay. So those 2 prison escapees, they were eventually caught and brought back, but that's not nearly as interesting as what happened a few years later with one of them, John Kendall, who escaped again, this time in a helicopter with another escape convict, and yeah, he was eventually caught again, but yeah, I'm sure he still kept trying. So let's go back to, yeah, so yes, it is possible they could use reverse genes, but I think the odds of finding a match through that are something, I think they said it's something like 1 in 10 million.
Alexander Hamilton. Sussex police would like to interview Mr. Hamilton in connection with a number of offences of criminal deception. On the 19th of November, an 86-year-old lady from Worthing met a man who gave his name as Stuart Alexander. He claimed to be a valet on the Canberra and persuaded her that he could get her discount on a cruise. He so convinced her that when they met again next day, she parted with £1,200 in cash. Needless to say, she never saw it or him again. Stuart Alexander, who, by the way, uses that name when he stays at guest houses, has also claimed to be a valet on the QE2, and he's conned elderly ladies with the offer of Chanel No. 5 perfume. On every occasion, though, he's sailed off with the money. Alexander Hamilton is 63. He's described as 5 feet 7 inches tall, average build, and with grey, balding hair. He's well-spoken, with a Scottish accent.
And have you seen this?
So, yeah, skinny Bobby Charlton there. Yeah, I haven't been able to find if he was if he was ever caught for his conniving.
This man, his name's Austin John McCormick, although his usual aliases Christy Miller and Jimmy Segden. Merseyside police want to interview him.
I'm trying to think who he reminds me of.
Who was killed in a fight at the Kowloon Club in Nelson Street, Liverpool,
can't
on the
quite
15th
place
of November 1982. Austin John McCormick is 32 years old, 5 foot 10 inches tall, stockily built and frequently alters his appearance. But there are some things he can't disguise. The heavy tattoos on his arms and the scar on his left cheek. If you've seen him, or indeed any of the other faces on our photo call, please call us here at Crimewatch UK.
Okay, so now we go. Just gonna go back again. So Austin McCormack, he was eventually found 2 years later, and he was questioned in relation to the murder of a gentleman called William Osu. He was cleared of that, though. The murderer was a chap called Dennis Kelly, although even immediately after he had been convicted of the death in 1984, there was a Free Dennis Kelly campaign. It was quite an infamous case around Liverpool at the time, because it was quite a racially charged incident. But yeah, as far as I know, Dennis Kelly still served his life sentence. Now let's go. Right, moving on. Separated at birth, Nick Ross and Claire Balding. Yes, I think you might be right. They may
we want
well
to take
be
you
twins.
Back 7 months to the night of Thursday, the 24th of May. What happened on that night has tantalized a large team of detectives and orphaned 2 small children. The place is Balsall Heath in Birmingham. There's a red light district there that attracts streetwalkers and cruising cars from all around the city.
It's always interesting cases because this is to do with
murdered in Birmingham in recent years.
This is to do with murder of prostitutes.
I've been a prostitute for 18 years, and I work in the Busleigh area.
I don't know. It always seems to be hard to garner sympathy for
very frightening out there.
for
because you never
prostitutes,
because
people just seem to look.
nice,
People look down on them as if
act
they're
as a
not people. But
until he gets you to the place. Then he could turn all of a sudden.
That's almost certainly what happened to Yvonne Coley. She was 28, quiet but well-liked, And though she'd never married, she was a mother with 2 young daughters to support.
Beverly,
That's the thing.
don't you
See,
stay up
they've
late
always
watching
got
this telly.
friends and family too.
Good night, Beverly. Don't stay up late now. All right? No. Good night, love. Now don't go to sleep late.
Messages of sympathy have been sent by the Queen and by the Prime Minister. This has been News at 10. Good night.
We know just after News at 10 had finished that Yvonne made herself ready to
Okay,
go to work.
that's
She was late tonight.
that's probably
going to
get me a copyright
was her
claim.
mother's birthday, and there'd been a party. Sometime after 11, she left her house in Bordsley Green. Meanwhile, 2 miles away in Bolsall Heath, 2 other girls had found a punter whom they remember well. A rather drunken client, and a blue van that would soon assume a crucial significance.
Just my friend, that's all. She
Big
always
blue
comes
van.
with me.
I want her out, and I want you in the back.
I don't get in the back of vans.
In the back, I say.
Providing you pay me first.
Oh. You know, I'm not saying anything there.
Leave your bag here.
I just want a cigarette, all right?
Oh, okay. Hey, you! Bring my money! Please, come back! Bring my money!
Oh, he
Yvonne
got
arrived
done
in
over there, didn't
Bolsall
he?
Heath at about 11:40. The police believed the blue van was still cruising round the area. Halfway up Ladypool Road, before getting to her beat, Yvonne stopped briefly here.
The dumpling shop.
Hello. One of them meat patties.
As far as the shopkeeper can remember, Yvonne appeared to have no more than small change in her purse.
I do like a Jamaican patty. No soup for you. You're talking about the
As Yvonne
Seinfeld,
crossed
the
Bryden
soup
Road,
Nazi.
she was recognised by this local club owner. She was now heading for her usual beat on the corner of Sandford Road.
You're late going up tonight?
I've been at my mum's. We're having a party, it's a birthday.
What time is it anyway?
11:45.
Oh, I'm going home. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Oh, stay on a bit. 5 minutes.
Okay, wait till you get your first one, then I'm off.
11:45.
Oh, it's
That's-
packed, I don't want in.
Oh, I'll do it me.
That's late for them.
I'll see you later. Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night. Ta-ra.
Yvonne went with her first client at 11:45. Later evidence, the amount of cash found with her body, suggests she did have other customers in the next half hour. If she did, she might have come here with them, a car park behind Ladypool Road, where the prostitutes earn their money in their clients' cars. But at some stage, she must have come here, to the Warstock area, about 3 miles away. It was here at 20 minutes past midnight that a couple
she got
walking
about
home
then.
noticed a similar blue van parked in the entrance to Coxmore's Woods golf course. 8:30 the next morning, the same spot on Warstock Lane. The blue van was gone now, but a few paces from where it had been, a local resident made a gruesome discovery on his morning walk.
He found a shoe. Oh, they're really dragging this out.
Northermite 1 attend Warstock Lane to a report of a female body under the hedgerow on the golf course. Northermite 1 received, over.
I knew Yvonne as a friend. They always say, oh no, it won't happen to me. But look at the heartbreak it brings when you're left for dead. Those men, all the prostitutes, if they'd seen anything that night, we'd just like them to come forward, because somebody must have seen something that night.
I will
Everybody's not
get
blind.
to the
They're not.
information I have on this in a
Well,
moment.
before we speak to the man in charge of the inquiry, Detective Superintendent Roy Taylor, let's just recap on the geography of the area. When Yvonne
Detective
arrived in
Mick
Balsall
McCarthy.
Heath, she walked down Ladypool Road. The club owner saw her here as she crossed Brighton Road. Then we saw her meet her friend here on the corner of Sandford Road. That was the last time she was seen alive. It was about 3 miles away on Coxmoor Woods golf course that her body was found next morning, just off Warstock Lane. She'd been strangled. Well, Superintendent Taylor, that blue van there seems to be the crucial clue.
Yeah, sounds like...
It is crucial, yes.
Sounds like
because
she
we
was
have,
picked up and dumped.
3 sightings of the van that night. One at about 11:30 p.m. in Birchwood Crescent, again in the area of Church Road a short time later, and then of course near to where Yvonne's body was found at about 12:20 a.m. on the Friday morning.
So you do need to trace that, if only to eliminate it from your inquiries.
We do most definitely, yes.
The trouble is there are hundreds of blue vans, of course. Can you narrow it down for us?
Yes, it's a dark blue van in the 15, 17 or 2200 weight class. No windows in the side, and it is fitted with,
Coxmoor
we believe,
Woods,
Lee
yes.
Conquest
Yes,
type
Dooms.
of tyre, which is a cross-ply with Avon Supervan tyres also.
So that's an interesting combination of tyres on one
Yes,
van.
we've checked many thousands of vans in this inquiry, and as yet we've only turned up 3 with similar
tyres.
combination of tyres. It's almost like a fingerprint.
What about the driver?
Well, we don't know for certain the driver of the van in Warstock Lane, but of course we've got the Asian gentleman that we're looking for, who was involved with the 2 prostitutes earlier in the evening.
Yeah,
and he is described as an Asian, 40 years of age, very well built, with a moustache, a Mexican-style moustache, which will particularly distinguish him.
Get trouble, but...
Now, Yvonne was last definitely seen at 11:45 that night, and that blue van, the last sighting of a blue van was at 12:20.
An Indian man with a moustache,
she was murdered?
you know,
I think
don't think that's
she
very
was probably murdered
distinctive.
a short time after that. And that would be consistent with the sighting of the blue van in Warstock Lane.
Yeah, that'll get me in trouble.
Because when she went out and when she bought the patty, we know that she had no money with her. We know that she had money with her when her body was found, and of course that would indicate that she'd been with a number of clients.
What about a blue Mercedes that somebody said they saw her in?
Yes, we've got an unconfirmed sighting of her in a blue Mercedes in Brighton Road at about 1 a.m. that morning, and we do need particularly to try and find the person who was driving that vehicle, whether he was with a prostitute or with his wife or whoever, if only to lose the sight, to try and eliminate them from the inquiry.
Briefly, how else can the public help?
Well, of course, if we can trace the van with that combination of tyres on it, if we could trace the person that was with Yvonne, anybody that was with Yvonne that night, then I would appeal to them to come forward and contact me.
Just going to let him wrap up.
If there's any way you think you can help in any way, please.
Okay. All right, so we'll go. Just going to go back. So Yvonne Cooley. So her case. Getting back to my slides. So it's still officially unsolved, but they do believe it was the work of the Midlands Ripper, Alan Kite, but they haven't been able to prove that in her case. So Alan Kite, he's murdered at least 3 people, but they think he could have murdered as many as 12 prostitutes, and as well as other crimes that he has committed. But, yeah, it looks like he was inspired by the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe. So partially solved. They think it was him, but they haven't been able to prove that. So with that, I will let Nick take us out. Okay.
Don't let this happen again. The number to ring 01811 8055. That's here at Crimewatch. Or you can call Edward Road Police Station at Birmingham 440 1155. That's 021 440 1155.
And if you haven't had a chance to write the numbers down, they're all on CFAX. If you have that on page 186, there for the rest of the week.
CFAX
186. Or you
186.
can't get through, please write to us. Here's the address.
Who didn't love
UK,
CFAX?
BBC TV Centre, London W12 8QT.
CFAX 303 for the football.
Remember, and we're going to be here all evening, so please ring if you think you might be able to help in any way, however small.
In fact, as always, we'll be back to tell you what develops in about an hour from now. That's Crimewatch UK Update here on BBC One at about 11:05.
Yeah,
if you can't stay up till then,
I don't do the
don't
updates.
have nightmares. A big Home Office research study published last week shows that the risk of serious crime
Just because there's not
is,
much
and,
point
I
to it.
quote, very small. And contrary to what most people imagine, the figures show clearly women are safer than men, and old people are safest of all by a long, long way, which means that thankfully the sort of crimes we've asked your help with are very rare indeed.
And maybe you can help make them rarer still. We'll be waiting for your call.
For the moment, good night.
Yeah, I appreciate Nick trying to be reassuring there, but yeah, I wouldn't want to stake my life on it. Anyway, yeah, that was it. Oh, we had a BBC Micro. Yeah, I had a BBC Micro back in the day too. They were good little machines for that era. So anyway, that's it for this edition of the Crimewatch Rewatch. Hope you found it interesting. I've tried my best to give you all the information I can find in each case. I think there was only one case this week where I couldn't find anything in relation to it. So yeah, that's probably my best success rate so far on it. Even if I couldn't tell you if they had all been solved or not. But yeah, I will be back again later on this week. I'll be on Doom's channel, 8 out of 10 cats with a Z, to do the weekly roundtable quiz. So until next time, don't have nightmares.